Greetings, Toiletarians! I'm your host, Toilet Terry, and you guys are all watching the final episode of Season 18 of Toilet Talk with Terry. That's me, obviously. So, the discussion topic for this episode is mentally insane. Or mentally ill, whatever you want to call it. You see, mentally ill is not the answer to everything, however. Just because somebody says something or does something that seems mentally ill doesn't mean that they are. I once had a friend who, every time he put on his glasses, he would go, "Magic bananas!" He'd take them off, and then he'd put them back on. "Magic bananas!" Take them off, and then again, "Magic bananas!" But did that mean he was mentally ill? No. No, it didn't. I also heard this song by a band called the Marcells from back in, I think it was 1961 or so. There was this song of theirs that my grandfather introduced me to back in the day. It was entitled Blue Moon. The first part is really catchy. You're just like, oh, this is catchy. They're singing bomba da bomba 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 da bomba bomba dang 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 a ding and on doop doop, and then they start sounding like they're mentally ill. It goes a little something like this: a ding and on doop doop. You know, they're supposed to sound like they're singing blue, 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 blue moon, but instead it's like moo, 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 moo. Sounds like a bunch of mentally ill, constipated cows, if you ask me. Don't get me wrong, though, I still like the song. You see, things we perceive as mentally ill, like I said before, just because we perceive them that way, it doesn't mean that they are. For another example, one time, my Nana and I were taking my sister to dance class. After we took her to dance class, Nana and I were going to go swimming at the pool while she was in dance class. I told this story in previous videos before, but I'm going to tell it again anyway. We go to the other end of the railroad track because there's no parking spots on the other end, and once we finally find a decent parking spot, the train sounds toot, and then the bars go ding, 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 ding. My Nana's reaction to the situation made her look and sound mentally ill. Like, if you had never met her before, and that's the first thing you saw, you would have been like, this lady's mentally ill. Here's what she did. She was like, oh! Dang it, dang it, dang it, dang it, dang it, dang it. Dang, 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 dang. I'm sure if a friend of mine had just met her that day and was in the car with us, he probably would have thought to himself, I just witnessed mental illness at its finest. I'm definitely telling my parents about this when I get home. However, I do have another relative. My other grandmother, the one on my dad's side's younger sister, my great aunt Donna. My Nana, you see, her reactions to things make her seem mentally ill even though she's not. However, great aunt Donna, she takes it to a whole other level. I mentioned this story in my last video. For those of you who watched it, you already know this story. She believes the CIA spies on her through a camera secretly embedded in the TV, She pulls down her drawers and sticks her butt out at the TV, thinking that she's talking to a camera, and says, "Y'all can kiss my white butt." Maybe that's not mental illness, but it's pretty darn close. Now, I'm going to tell one story written by a mentally ill person, an unidentified mentally ill person, by the way, and then a story of a person who was really mentally ill. First, I'm going to tell the story that's by a mentally ill person. So, a crow, who's probably mentally ill, is sitting on a tree doing nothing all day, like they always do, because they're probably mentally ill animals. A rabbit hops by the tree, looks up and sees the crow sitting there, and says to the crow, "Can I just sit around doing nothing all day like you?" And the crow says, "Sure, why not? You could do whatever you want." So the rabbit just sits there doing nothing all day. And then a fox comes up to the rabbit and eats it off the ground. And the person who wrote the story wrote this after the end of the story. So I guess the moral of this story is, if you're going to sit around and do nothing all day like a crow, you have to be in high places. If that's not mental illness in writing, I don't know what is, folks. And now, the best part, the funniest story of them all that I am going to be sharing on this episode, for the moment you've all been waiting for. I'm going to share a story about a person who actually was mentally ill. Listen at this. So, my grandfather's company once hired this lady who claimed that she had schizophrenia. And she thought she was the bride of Christ. She was a Christian, like I am, and like my family is. And she had just gotten married. And she was delusional. She thought that her new husband was the second coming of Jesus Christ. After a while, someone in my grandfather's firm, for some reason, I don't know why, went into her office, and when he opened a drawer, he found a bunch of letters to random people that didn't exist. And he was like, "Oh my gosh, this lady is mentally ill. This is insane." And then later they get a call, and they think it's from her, but no, it's from her new husband. The husband informs them that she's not going to be with them for a while. She's going to be out for a while and in the hospital. And they're like, "Why?" And then he says to them, "My wife claimed that somebody told her Satan worked at the Ford dealership, the local Ford dealership, and she tried to kill Satan by plowing her car into the Ford dealership." So, I guess the moral of this episode could be something along the lines of, be careful what you identify as mentally ill. Because you don't know if you are not a part of the situation. And that's all I have to say about that. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this episode, this discussion topic. Up next is the first episode of season 19 of Toilet Talk with Terry. I'll say it again, season 19, believe it or not. Hit that subscribe button for more upcoming content, which will be amazing. You won't want to miss it. All right, keep it real. Peace out. Hold up.